All right, let's talk about one of the greatest underdog stories of all time, the American Revolution. I mean, think about it. You've got this scrappy group of colonies going up against the mightiest empire on the entire planet. And somehow, they won. The real question is, how on earth did they pull that off?
And that really is the question, isn't it? It's what this is all about. How in the world did a band of rebels, a bunch of farmers and merchants, actually manage to defeat a global superpower? To even begin to answer that, you've got to look at the incredible odds they were facing.
I mean, if you were a betting person back then, this would look like a total mismatch. On one side, you have the British. We're talking the strongest navy in the world, way more money, a much bigger population, and a professional, seriously well-trained military. They even brought in hired guns, those famous German mercenaries, the Hessians. But the Americans had a few aces up their sleeve, things you can't really measure on paper. They were fighting on their own turf, which is a huge deal. They were fighting for their freedom, a motivation that is incredibly powerful. And they had George Washington leading the charge.
So the war kicks off, and right from the jump, it becomes clear that passion and home field advantage were going to be a real problem for the British.
Okay, so the first real fireworks happened at Lexington and Concord back in 1775. The British troops march out of Boston, thinking this is going to be a walk in the park. Just grab some rebel supplies, teach them a lesson. But what they ran into was, well, it was fierce, organized resistance. These were the famous shots heard around the world, and they basically screamed a message to the British, buckle up, this is not going to be easy. And these early fights really show you a couple of key things. First, you see just who was fighting for independence. It was a diverse group. At places like Bunker Hill, you had African Americans fighting right alongside other patriots. Super important to remember. The second thing, the British just kept getting it wrong. They looked at the colonists and saw, disorganized farmers, not a real army driven by a powerful idea. So when they won the Battle of Long Island, they thought, okay, that's it, rebellion over. They just completely underestimated the American will to keep going no matter what.
But that resolve? Oh, it was about to be tested like never before. That initial fire and excitement started to fade, replaced by a really brutal reality. The whole revolution was teetering on the edge of complete collapse.
The Continental Army was just getting hammered, losing battle after battle. Morale was absolutely in the gutter. And right then, at this super low point, a writer named Thomas Paine comes out with his pamphlet, The American Crisis. And George Washington, he knew his soldiers needed something more than just battle plans. They needed a reason to believe. So he had Paine's words read out loud to every soldier, a powerful reminder of what this whole struggle was really about.
And boy, did they need that inspiration. It's hard for us to even imagine how bad the conditions were. We're talking no food, no proper clothes or shoes in the freezing cold. It's no wonder so many soldiers just gave up and deserted. They were walking away from what looked like a totally hopeless fight. Honestly, it's a miracle the army didn't just dissolve completely.
But then, with this little bit of renewed hope, Washington pulls off two absolutely shocking victories at Trenton and Princeton. Now, from a pure military strategy perspective, they were pretty small battles. But psychologically, they were massive. It was a jolt of electricity. It proved to everyone, the soldiers themselves, the public, the world, that the Americans could still fight, and they could still win. The revolution was not dead yet.
Okay, so just surviving wasn't going to cut it. To actually beat the British Empire, the Americans knew they needed help. They needed a powerful friend. And it would take one single major victory to convince another country to jump in on their side.
And that victory was the Battle of Saratoga in 1777. Seriously, if you're going to remember one battle from the entire American Revolution, make it this one. This is the one that changed absolutely everything.
Here's how it went down, like a chain reaction. Step 1. The Americans win a huge, decisive victory against a major British army. Step 2. France, who's been watching from the sidelines, sees this and thinks, whoa, okay, maybe these guys can actually win. They're convinced to officially join the war on America's side. And step 3, with the mighty French military and, crucially, their navy now in the fight, the whole balance of power just flips on its head.
So now, with France in their corner, the Americans finally have the firepower to go toe-to-toe with the British. The stage is set for the final showdown, the end game.
And that brings us to the Siege of Yorktown in 1781. This is it. You've got this huge combined American and French army, and they have the main British army, led by General Cornwallis, completely cornered. For once, the British and their Hessian soldiers are the ones with their backs against the wall.
And the strategy they used was just brilliant.
It was a classic pincer move. You had the American and French troops blocking all the land routes so they couldn't escape that way. Then the French Navy sailed into the Chesapeake Bay, completely cutting off any escape or rescue by sea. They were totally surrounded. No way out, no reinforcements coming. The British had no choice but to surrender. Game over. Checkmate.
So, the fighting is pretty much done. But winning on the battlefield is one thing. Now they had to actually build a country and get the rest of the world to recognize it.
And that happened in 1783 with the Treaty of Paris. This was the big one. It wasn't just a ceasefire. This was the official piece of paper where Great Britain itself formally said, yep, the United States is an independent country. It ended the war for good and put a brand new nation on the map.
So when you look back at the whole thing, how did this happen? How did the underdog win? Well, it wasn't just one magic bullet. It was a perfect storm. That absolutely critical alliance with France, the massive advantage of fighting on their own turf, and probably most important of all, just the raw, unwavering determination of people fighting for their own freedom. So let's just do a super quick flyover of the whole journey. It all starts in 1775. The massive turning point comes in 77 at Saratoga. The checkmate moment is at Yorktown in 81, and it all becomes official with the Treaty of Paris in 1783, an incredible 8-year fight that literally changed the course of history.
And it all kind of leaves you with this one big question, right? The American Revolution really makes you think about what it actually takes to win a war. Is it the side with the most ships, the biggest army, and all the money? Or is it the side with the unbreakable spirit and a cause they're willing to die for? Something to think about.